Hi everyone! Today I want to talk about the most common menstrual cycle myths. Period myths have been around since, well, forever. And because society makes us feel ashamed for having a period and basically just having a body, these myths are not talked about. And because these myths aren't talked about, they never go challenged, and so they just keep getting circulated around and around and around. And that's unfortunate, because then what happens is that generation after generation after generation believes that these myths are true. So let's get into these myths. Now, I picked the most common myths. Obviously, menstrual cycle myths are very culture-based, so I just picked things that I see perpetuated online all the time. Myth number 1. Ovulation always happens on day 14 of your menstrual cycle. No, that's not true. I wish our menstrual cycles worked like clockwork, but they don't. You can actually ovulate at any time during your follicular phase. Depending on your cycle length, you could ovulate before day 14, or you could ovulate after day 14. Day 14 is just a really easy number when you are describing the menstrual cycle to say, hey, the follicular phase goes until day 1 of your cycle, and it goes until day 14. So easy and mathematical. But in reality, it kind of is confusing because a lot of us just assume, oh, we must ovulate all the time on day 14. And this can be problematic for a variety of different reasons. First, if you're trying to conceive and you're just having sex around day 14, you could be missing your window of opportunity. The other thing is if you were trying to avoid pregnancy and you think you ovulate just on day 14, then you could be getting yourself into trouble. Ovulation can take place really anytime during your cycle. I know for me, I ovulate day 16, 17, 18 usually, but again, like I was saying, it can fluctuate cycle to cycle. So it's just a myth that I wanted to debunk first and foremost because it is not true. You do not always ovulate on day 14 of your cycle. You can ovulate on any day of your cycle. And I'm just gonna sneak this in here, but a 28-day cycle is not normal for everyone. So you might see when people are talking about, oh, you ovulate on day 14, and then they say, and then you'll get your period on day 28. And I mean, for 10% of us, that might be true, but we just have to remember that what you see online and when you start reading about the menstrual cycle and the numbers that they give you, like day 14 and day 28, those are just to make the menstrual cycle really easy to teach. It just makes it really easy for you to understand that, oh, you have a 2-week follicular phase and then you have a 2-week luteal phase, but that's not normal for everyone. Normal cycles can be 25 to 35 days long, so you can have a lot of variety in that. So I just wanted to throw that in there because that's another myth that needs to be busted as well, but I just want to throw that in there because I have so many other myths to get through. Myth number 2, you can't get pregnant on your period. Now, this is a really dangerous myth that is perpetuated all the time. Yes, you can get pregnant on your period, and while it's rare, it does happen. And you might hear of stories of women who have their period, who have unprotected sex, and still end up pregnant. Like I said before, ovulation can technically happen at any time in your follicular phase, so you just want to be careful and not do anything risky. Even if you think you have a grasp on when you ovulate, ovulation days do fluctuate cycle to cycle. So it's just not a safe practice, especially if you're trying to avoid pregnancy. I just wanted to debunk this because it's simply not true and it puts people at risk. So please be very mindful and protect yourself at all times during your cycle. And this myth actually ties in really nicely with my next myth. So myth number 3, you can get pregnant at any time during your cycle. Now, I know you might be like, how does this fit into the last myth? Because you said that you could get pregnant on your period, but now you're saying you can't get pregnant every time in your cycle? I'm kind of confused. I understand that this can be kind of confusing, but I just want to make it very clear that technically you can ovulate at any time during your cycle, but your egg is only viable for 12 to 24 hours. And so what that means is it can only be fertilized in that 12 to 24 hour time span. However, sperm can live in you for 5 days. I'm sorry. I know that that's not something that we really want to think about, but it's true. Sperm can live in you for 5 days. And so, you just have to be really careful with ovulation and protecting yourself, because even though you might be like, oh, my egg's only viable for 12 to 24 hours, I mean, we have nothing to worry about. Sperm can live in you for up to 5 days, so technically, if you're having unprotected sex, there is a 7-day window where you can get pregnant. And this is just really important to understand. So no, you cannot get pregnant on every day of your menstrual cycle, but yes, there is a fertile window, approximately 7 days long, where you can get pregnant. Now, this is one of the myths that I actually believed for a very, very long time. It wasn't until a few years ago when I read the book Taking Charge of Your Fertility that I understood that I couldn't actually get pregnant every day of my cycle. And you wouldn't even believe the stress that lifted off of my shoulders when I read that. I was like, oh my God, I've always been so anxious about this. And this ties in with the last myth about not being able to get pregnant on your period because, well, technically it can happen. If you have a short cycle or you ovulate early, let's say you ovulate on day 10 of your cycle, if you have unprotected sex on day 7 of your period, that leaves quite a few days for the sperm to just be waiting around for day 10 to come along to fertilize that egg. So that's why it's important to understand this. So hopefully that cleared it up. If you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments, but hopefully that made it crystal clear. 1, 2, 3, 4. Are we on myth number 4 already? Myth number 4, you can ovulate more than once in one cycle. So this is simply not true. Once you ovulate during your cycle, you're done. You're not ovulating again. And the reason why is because your body and your hormones work as a feedback loop. So once you ovulate, your hormones work as a feedback loop to tell your body, oh, we done. We don't need to ovulate again. It's really amazing. But your body can actually release more than one egg when you do ovulate. So this is what happens when you have twins or maybe triplets, is that multiple eggs were released. It's very rare. It doesn't happen often. That's why multiples are not very common, but it can happen. So I just wanted to clear that up because some people think you can ovulate more than once, and that is not possible. Myth number 5, you lose cups of blood when you menstruate. So this is simply not true. On average, most people lose about 50 mils of blood. So that's about 3 tablespoons. And I know for a lot of you, you're probably like, what? No, I lose way more than that. And you might. That's just a normal average. However, if you lose more than 80 milliliters of blood, that is technically a heavy flow. And a heavy flow is not necessarily normal. It could mean that you have underlying health issues. So I just want to make it very clear that bleeding very, very heavily is not normal. So if you feel like you lose cups and cups of blood during your menstrual cycle, please talk to your healthcare provider because it's not normal to be losing that much blood. Myth number 6, birth control periods are real periods. No, they are not. When you get a period on hormonal birth control, it is not a true period. What it is a withdrawal bleed. This means that your body is withdrawing from the synthetic hormones that you are putting into it when you take the pill. This is a myth that's perpetuated so much, and it's just simply not true. When manufacturers first came out with hormonal birth control, it didn't allow for a withdrawal bleed. And that really freaked people out because women were taking the birth control pill and not getting any periods. So what the manufacturers did is they put sugar pills in for a week, and so when women would take those, they would have a withdrawal bleed. And that made women feel more confident in taking birth control because it felt more natural. So I just wanted to debunk this myth because it's perpetuated all the time, but it's simply just not true. Myth number 7, tampons break the hymen. I don't know what it is, but this one myth chaps my ass so much. Like this bothers me so much. First of all, the hymen is a thin, stretchy membrane that lines the vaginal opening. It is not, and I repeat, it is not a membrane that covers the vaginal opening. If it covered the vaginal opening, how would you have a period? Like, you couldn't. It would just be in there, not able to come out. And that's why this myth bothers me so much, because there's so much BS behind this and there's so much false information that it's actually disturbing. Hymens are stretchy. They're meant to be, and inserting a tampon doesn't break it. Now, the reason why I think this myth is so prevalent is because it's just a way of controlling women's bodies. So no, tampons do not break the hymen, and you are totally okay for using one. So I just wanted to debunk this because it's a super toxic myth, and I just hate to see people perpetuating such misinformation. Myth number 8. Women who hang out together sync their menstrual cycles up. While I would love to believe this because like how fun and cool would that be, there is no evidence that suggests that this is true. There has been research and studies done on it, but nothing has come out that this actually happens. Now, some of you probably do experience this. You probably have synced up with your friend, and that is super cool. I know I have before, and it was awesome. I was like, oh my god, look at us, we're all synced up. Super fun. But it's not something that usually lasts for a long time because cycle lengths can vary from month to month. When we ovulate can vary, and that can cause our cycle to be a little bit shorter by a few days or a little bit longer, which then obviously throws us being synced up with our friends off. So while it's a myth, it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. You're probably gonna sync up with your friends at some point, but that doesn't mean that if you go to a different friends group that your menstrual cycle will just completely sync to them. Hopefully that makes sense. Myth number 9. Painful periods are normal. No, painful periods are not normal. Some discomfort is normal. Obviously, you're shedding your uterine lining, you're gonna feel that. But if you have to take pain medication or if you have to take time off of work because your period cramps are so bad that you can't follow through with your daily activities, that's not normal. And I really encourage you to get help because you could have an underlying health condition like endometriosis that could be causing you to have a lot of pain, and there are treatments for it. And unfortunately, in our society, we normalize painful periods to the point where people don't get help for them. I can't stress this enough. You should not be in extreme pain every month. So myth number 10, finally we made it to number 10. And myth number 10 is you shouldn't exercise on your period. Now, I just want to be clear. Do you need to exercise on your period? No. Can you exercise on your period? Yes! You do you. Do what you want to do. And in fact, moving your body when you have your period can help you boost your mood. It can help you feel better. Although I'm not gonna lie, the last thing I want to do when I have cramps is go and hit the weights and work out really hard. But what I will do is I'll do yoga, I might go for a walk outside, I'll do very like relaxing and intuitive exercises, but I'm not gonna go and do like a heavy leg day. That's just crazy. But some people do enjoy going to the gym and lifting weights when they have cramps or when they have their period, and it often makes them feel better. So for this one, I just want you to listen to your body and do what's right for you. Now, these 10 myths are just a handful of the myths that are out there, but I think it's time that we challenge these myths and spread truth and knowledge instead of fear. If you have any questions or any myths that you want debunked, please put them in the comments below. And I would really appreciate if you liked this video and shared it with any of your friends that might find interest, or maybe some of them might believe some of these myths. So please share it with them so they can learn more about their bodies. As always, I want you guys to know that your cycle matters so much, and I am here for you, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!